Thank you guys for checking out this episode of the 80/20 Real Estate Show. We have on, some call him the Don Corleone of the real estate investing and real estate investing podcast world, Don Costa. Don, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I got the nickname Don Father a while back, and that kind of stuck. I'm not sure if I guess I'd take it. It's a good thing, right? So
I'm a huge Godfather fan. I made a Godfather reference before we even started recording here. But no, I didn't know that, the Don Father. I'm
yeah,
definitely gonna call you that moving forward. Um, in addition to being a leader of organized crime in a sense of high-level real estate investor, the Don Father also hosts his own podcast, Flip Talk. Our CEO is on there, and it seems like he's on there almost every day, if not multiple times a week. So definitely connect with Don on social, Don Costa, Costa, if you see him, because I mean he's pretty much dedicating part of his day every day to delivering content and value for you guys, which we're definitely going to talk on. But he's really a rock star, best of the best. I want to hear all about the Inner Circle Elite Mastermind that I know you and Mike are a part of. So kind of want to get your opinion on a few things that we'll dive into. Best insight that you get from talking to high-level investors all the time, your own business. I've listened to you on a few other podcasts, so I have a couple questions stemming from just previous interviews that you've done in the past and where you've moved forward since then. And yeah, a lot of stuff, man. How's it going, man? It's right now, and we're recording this. This will probably come out next week, but it's March 12th. Some interesting stuff is going on with the coronavirus as far as sporting events being canceled, some travel restrictions coming up. So that's just kind of where we are at, finishing off Q1 here, 2020. But yeah, excited to have you on the show, man.
I'm excited to be on. I'm excited to be on. Hit me with whatever you got. I'm an open book, and I'll try to give as much value as I possibly can, for sure.
Genuinely appreciate that. I guess to start off here, and I'm curious myself just to kind of hear all the businesses or projects that you have your hands in. We've talked about the podcast that you host, Flip Talk. But tell me a little bit about just where you're at with real estate, the podcast, potential events coming up that we talked about before we went on air, just to give myself and everybody kind of full context of where you're at. And then we'll kind of dive into how you got into real estate, all that good stuff.
Okay. So I am a serial entrepreneur, like I think most people. My passion is building businesses and building things. I probably will never retire, to be honest with myself in the world. Like I'm one of those guys that I love spending time with my family, camping, vacationing, and then I love what I do, which is building businesses and interacting with people and doing cool things. So I have a real estate investing company. We rehabbers first. I started as a rehabber way back in 2003, 17 years ago. And then in about 2 years ago, we took wholesaling seriously at the same time. So now we're rehabbing and wholesaling in my organization. I have about 14 people on my team right now. We do over 100 rehabs a year. We do roughly 50 to 60 wholesale transactions a year. And then, I have the podcast. I started the podcast 3 years ago, Flip Talk. And I just had my 3-year anniversary this last October. I started it as a passion project because not really with any intent to do anything with it, just keep myself grounded in real estate. Because the last time around before the crash, I started a real estate business and I got sidetracked with every shiny object out there. I wasn't a good leader, didn't run a real business, and I lost it all when the market crashed. So this time around, which you can ask me any question on that you want. This time around, I wanted to stay grounded in real estate. And so I started the podcast just to kind of keep me focused on my day-to-day grind. As I pulled myself out of my business, I didn't have as much to do. I wanted to stay busy. So, and then from that, I met incredible people like yourself and Dan and just so many other incredible people out there, and had high level conversations, and it's been fun and a wild ride. And we've gotten the opportunity to start a mastermind, and it's cool. I got a lot of things going on, and I like every minute of it.
So. Love that, man. Are you locally doing business in Fresno, California there?
Yeah, we're based in Central Valley, California. We go down to Bakersfield, which is about 2 hours south of us, all the way up to Sacramento, which is about 3 hours north. And then we're in the California Bay Area in 2 counties there. We're doing transactions up in Eugene, Springfield, Oregon. And we dip our toe in and out of Las Vegas. We haven't taken it really seriously, but we do some marketing, do a few deals, and then we kind of back off, and then we can jump back in. I'm just trying to figure that market out a little bit. But eventually we'll be pretty stable there as well. And I would say every year or so, we start to kind of test another market and just kind of see, what we're comfortable with as far as moving forward that market or not.
Very cool. One thing I kind of want to discuss now before we talk about how you do annual reviews, make pivots, analyze markets,
Mhm.
inner circle elite mastermind, and best insights that you've learned from these high level relationships and guests that you've had on your own show. Huge congratulations on the 3-year anniversary, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Tell me a little bit about your business right now over there on the West Coast, kind of soup to nuts, what you're doing, just to give people an insight of, marketing, acquisitions, dispositions, maybe some key
Mhm.
systems and processes and hires you've made along the way there, where now you do have more time to spend on the podcast or, get into events, anything like that.
Yeah, like I said, we are rehabbers, wholesalers. So in a nutshell, we have wow, we have 4 people on the phones right now. We do everything phone close. That's one of the transitions we made in the last year. We do everything phone close so that we can be in
Nice.
multiple markets without having to continue to build the team, right? When you're in multiple markets, you have boots on the ground. You got to market to keep those the appointment book full and keep them busy and keep them fed. And I found that to be daunting as an organization, and the just constantly coaching and teaching your sales team. So we decided to bring our sales team internal, which helps systematize the process and help really kind of get structure and a grasp on the entering of new markets, and not having to have another person on the team. So we did that. We do the phone close thing. I have 2 project managers. I have one dispo guy who handles everything for all markets. I have a COO who oversees the operation right now. She's about 6 months in and starting to take the reins. We have a transaction coordinator and then an admin bookkeeper. So that's kind of the team in a nutshell. They handle 99% of the day-to-day operations. I try not to break things, so that's what we usually do as entrepreneurs, right? We go in there and we break it. I have a real estate brokerage arm. It's a separate corporation with the broker of record who manages all the agents there. And so, yeah, I mean, essentially, I put a lot of really cool people in place. That people talk about systems and processes in organizations, and systems are sexy, right? But systems mean nothing if you don't have the right people, and that's always the Achilles heel. And I've been really lucky over the years to be able to work with and develop and bring in some really good people into my organization who take the same pride of ownership in their position that I would, essentially.
hmm I think a lot of listeners are in a in a stage in their business or stage of their entrepreneurial journey where they're looking to have something set up structurally and team wise, where they do have a COO. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
6 months. Hopefully, she continues to work out really well for you. But I think a lot of listeners are trying to get to that place that listen to this
Mhm.
show. So, what has been the best insights, and maybe some of the worst insights on hiring, looking at what you need to hire and getting those people in place for you?
Well, I mean, as far as a team goes, they always say, slow to hire, quick to fire. I mean, that does ring true. But the other thing that I think we did well is, we would look at the individual and as for who they were when we hired them. Basically, we hired the person, not necessarily the experience, because sometimes the experience can be poison. They don't want to listen to your way. They have their way of doing it. We spent time developing the team members in our organization, and working with them and coaching them and counseling them if we felt like we get them to the end goal, right? If they're teachable and coachable, we'd spend time coaching them. And one of the things that I think that I've been lucky to do, it's not by talent by any means, but luck and an observation and hard work, is I've been able to identify when somebody's in the wrong seat and move them to the right seat. Like, for instance, my dispo guy was in acquisitions for years. He did a great job in acquisitions, but I was able to recognize that he would be better served dispositions, and he makes us and himself far more money in that role than he ever did in acquisitions. So sometimes recognizing that, somebody may excel somewhere else is huge when you're building an organization. As leaders, we want to plug and play people and just throw them in the seat and expect them to know what we need, or expect them to be able to follow, a simple direction. And that's a reasonable expectation, but the reality is that we didn't learn how to be in the roles we're in our organization by somebody handing us a book and saying, this is your job description, go do it. We learned it by trial and error and making mistakes and failure, and reaching out to mentors or coaches or YouTube University and figuring out what that mistake was, right? And so we need to understand how we learned to be strong in our positions, and we need to give that to our team. And that's why I think a lot of people fail. They'll plug somebody in, they won't give them the proper coaching, the person won't get it right away, and they'll cut them loose and they'll move on to the next person. They'll churn through people. If you have somebody that's teachable and coachable, you got to put the time and energy into developing them into who you need them to be. And if you do that, you're going to end up with strength in your organization that's just unlike anything that anybody else, most of your competition is going to have. So that's something I learned the hard way. I wasn't always, doing that. I was always expecting people to be me and figure it out on their own. And I failed for a long time because of that. So, you know, that's, I don't know if you have questions about that or not, but I think it's an important takeaway. Spend time in your people, invest in your people so that they can really be who you need them to be, and you can count on them in your organization.
100% and well said. Appreciative of the answer there. One thing I wanted to touch on just from hearing some of your interviews and listening to your own Flip Talk interviews, I think that everybody to a certain extent has to reprogram some either type of like limiting beliefs or scarcity beliefs. One of the things for you was when you were getting into real estate, thinking that you had to have all this money or social or like backing to complete real estate transactions. Similarly, you're talking about, hiring, everything like that. So one of the things I did want to touch on was that kind of like your own personal experience in life. I think that's powerful for people to hear, high level people that have overcome that. And then they have that kind of built in their head that they can overcome that too if they compound effect, listen to podcasts and things like that. So I did want to kind of get your breakdown on that as well, which you already kind of touched on.
Yeah, I alluded to it in the beginning that, I basically had two lives in this business. I had my first iteration of being an entrepreneur as a real estate investor. I got in 2003. I started door knocking, pre-foreclosures, doing subject to transactions, was really successful with it. And it went to my head. I was a tool, I thought that everything I touched turned to gold and it was never going to end. And I started a restaurant and nightclub, and I was working on a sunglass line, and I had a real estate company, property management company, a lending company. I had like 3 offices and 40 agents. And I wasn't paying attention to my core business, and I was a crappy leader. Like I was a really, really horrible leader. I had to make every decision. I had to control everything. So I was a bottleneck. And when the market turned, it destroyed me. I lived through what everybody's afraid of, failure. I came up after the dust settled in 2010, 2011 with $1 million judgment against me because of the restaurant and nightclub. I had basically to go to the gas station with quarters to buy gas at a gallon at a time. I would go to the grocery store with a calculator. I had several times my wife called me crying, in from the store because, she had a cart full of groceries and the debit card wouldn't clear. You just going to Taco Bell with my kids. I always tell this story, but it's an important one. Like I walk into Taco Bell with my family and I'm going to buy lunch that day. And I'm sure I got this $90 left on this last credit card I have. And I go to the counter and I go to pay and my card gets declined. And, I'm sitting there with my family and I had to tell the guy to run it again. I know the money's there and it gets declined again. And I have to cancel the order and walk out of Taco Bell. And as entrepreneurs, some of you might understand hearing this, like that is, we're tough. We have thick skin. Nothing phases us because we're entrepreneurs. But my kid tugging down my hand on the way out, asking me why the mean guy wouldn't give us our food was like soul crushing. Like I went through these moments that all people fear, and looking back on it now, I wouldn't change it for a thing. Those moments made me a better person. They made me a better husband, father, and business person, a better leader because I went through them. And coming out of them in 2012, I rebuilt my business again. And I wanted to run a real business where I could put people in place that I could count on, where I could put systems and processes in place, where I could really enjoy my business and my life at the same time. And I learned a lot of lessons. And to go back to your question about the fear and the and needing things, both times, I'll be honest, both times that I started, I felt like I needed the money behind me to go out there and look for deals. And both times I was wrong, right? I went and found the money and then went and looked for deals. But looking back on it now, if you have a good deal, if you're able to identify and put a good deal together, you're going to either find a buyer or a lender. I mean, it's going to happen. And so, looking back on it, I probably wasted especially the second time around, I probably wasted a good 6 months or so trying to find somebody to back me on a deal before I ever started looking. Like I should have been looking for a deal at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the things that I try to encourage people to do now is understand that, you can experience the greatest failure that you ever fear and come out of it actually stronger and better. And chances are most of you aren't going to experience that, because I don't think we're going to have a 2008 again. And you can take massive action and not have to have all the pieces in place and still become successful. So I think those are two important takeaways that I always like to make sure people hear me say, because I've been through it, I've done it, I've seen pretty much every aspect of this business you can see in 17 years. And right now today, with YouTube and podcasts like this one and the tools like Investor Fuse and all the stuff out there that are out there at your disposal, it is so much easier to get into and start and run a real estate business the right way than it ever was, way back when I got started. Like there's really no excuse. The only excuse people have is fear-based. And my goal is to remove that fear and let people take action on their dream. That's my ultimate goal.
I love that, man. That was a great breakdown. That moment in Taco Bell, how accepting or how in the know were you that that's ultimately going to be a good thing for you in the time?
In the time, it didn't feel like that. No,
Yeah.
I mean, there, I had a moment with my son. He was 4. He wanted a motorcycle for Christmas, and I couldn't find one that I could afford. My wife and I put together trinkets and whatnot under the tree to make sure they had Christmas, and I thought he wouldn't even notice. And the first thing he said when he got up that morning was, "Santa brought my motorcycle." And he ran out there, and every present he opened wasn't it. And the next one, he's like, "The next one's gonna be my motorcycle, Dad," and it wasn't there. And those moments they're soul crushing. Taco Bell, when my son was asking about the food, they're soul crushing. They're not meant. I mean, in any rhyme or reason to feel good. They're not meant to make you feel like you're going to be better off, but what they do is they mold you, they shape you, they give you like, there's nothing you can tell me right now or do to me right now that's going to stop me from my dream and my passion and my goal to be successful, because I know I'm unstoppable now. And that came from those moments. My why became more clear. Who I am as a person became more clear. And it's a hindsight thing, right? In the moment, I didn't see that. And there's people listening to this right now that probably feel like they're buried and they're never going to be able to accomplish their dreams, or they don't have the proof of concept, or only other people make that money, right? And I was that person at one point. I was that person twice in my life, and looking at this as something that was so far out of reach. But that you use that strength, right? You use that passion that I never want to be here again, and you pull yourself out of it one footstep at a time, and it just builds on itself, and you become the beast you deserve to be.
Love that. Kevin Hart, I've become a huge fan of, in addition to just he's hilarious and his stand up and the shows that he's in, but he almost describes that in a really similar way. More so, his pain was growing up Philadelphia, single family mom, really, really poor. And kind of his why or his motivation is like, he never wants to do that again. And now he's just doing, I feel like they say, like him and The Rock are like the busiest people in Hollywood, a rock star like yourself in the game in different avenues. But he's similar. And I mean, that's a crazy superpower if you can tap into your why. And I know it's a little bit cliche to talk about that, but it really is true.
It is.
How powerful and driven that you can be. I want to talk a little bit about Flip Talk, the intention behind that, and maybe some of the best insight that you've got. You're in a unique position, as I am, getting to talk to a lot of high-level people, a lot of high-level entrepreneurs that are in real estate. I do love how you frame it as you're an entrepreneur with your widget being real estate, not the other way around. Right. And I feel like that's a big mindset shift. Even a lot of things are really, really simple when you say them out loud, but your brain, the way it is it's kind of dumb, your reptilian brain. So when you're able to write that stuff out and encode it into your hard drive, it's interesting how much that can change your actions, behaviors, and kind of thoughts that you have. But tell me a little bit about Flip Talk, 3-year anniversary you mentioned, which is awesome. But tell me a little bit about your intention behind that and some of the best advice and like commonalities that you've had from your guests on there.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I mean, the whole idea behind it was to just keep myself grounded in real estate and paying attention to my core business, right? And so I launched it with the idea of just kind of doing it as a hobby. I got to talk to some really incredible people through the years and just build some really good relationships, to be honest with you. A lot of the friendships I have now are from the interactions, interviewing somebody on a podcast and then seeing them at an event. And then, well, we know each other already. So, we start talking and we build upon that. And that's been really, really cool. And then the listening to podcasts and interviewing on podcasts, I think it's kind of, it's hand in hand. So you get the same thing out of it. You're ingrained in what's going on in the market. You're ingrained in what other people's wins and struggles are. And it's helped keep me grounded, over the last, handful of years, listening to what's working and what's not for other people in other markets and other areas. And so that's been a huge part of it for me. The takeaway, one of the biggest takeaways is a lot of us have been through very similar struggles. I mean, maybe some of the people I interviewed haven't lost everything, but they had the doubts and the fears about getting going, and then they got the momentum, and then maybe they stumbled a little bit, and then they cracked the code to figure out that I want to build a business my way and not a prison, and they started building the business the way they wanted to with the right systems and processes, and now they're winning and they're ahead of the the eight ball, so to speak. And that's been kind of a trend and really, really cool to see in the conversations. Another thing that's been neat lately in the conversations is again, it goes back to not building a prison, but understanding, really understand your why. A lot of us get into this business with the dream of making money, right? Because we want freedom, and we don't know necessarily how to build a business, or what that business needs to look like for us, what the end result needs to be, what our exit strategy is going to be. And we end up pushing and pushing and pushing for something, and we end up neglecting the thing that we got in this for, which is usually family or freedom. And so, having that conversation with some high level people that have gone through that arc, and they've come back down to going, either I've sacrificed, or I have lost my family, or I've looked up and realized that I'm on the wrong path and I've had to correct. I've loved those interviews more because they're real, right? I mean, we can talk about like all the money we make, and we're doing 200 deals a year and all that crazy stuff, and we got this great business, but if it's a prison and it's keeping you from the freedom or the family, that the whole reason you got into this, what's the point of doing it? And so having that conversation with people about, restructuring or redirecting their organization to get back to the core reason why they did it, I think is important for people out there to hear.
100% agree with that. And it's interesting how it can be ironic that trying to create the freedom to hang out with your family more, you end up getting away from that, staying busy and building your own prison in the business.
100% agree. And I've been guilty of it. I've had moments where I've gotten home at 7:00 at night and then been on my phone answering texts and emails, and my wife saying, hey, spend time with us. And I'm like, I'm busy. I got things to do. It's like, no, I need to turn my phone off and set it down and check into my kids, we've all went through that arc in trying to build our business. And that's been an underlying theme, I think, in a lot of the latest conversations.
100%. That's another thing Kevin Hart talks about too, like being fully present and putting your phone away. Even if you're someone like his level, like, building towards being like a billionaire and, global icon, it's interesting. He's the same way and talks about the same stuff and how he's been putting an emphasis on that. So I would suggest any Kevin Hart fans out there looking up and I can put this in the show note, his interview with Joe Rogan. And then on Netflix, he also has a mini series out that kind of encapsulates a lot of what the Don Father has been talking about this episode thus far. On a similar note, I want to talk all about Inner Circle Elite. Looks like some awesome people in there that I know that I've interviewed in there. Tell me about that, which is probably going to be similar to the podcast, but I definitely want to hear all about that. We do have that for any of you who are listening to this that are in our 80/20 Academy. I do have that as one of the masterminds I mentioned. So the link is already in there for our Academy members, and we'll put that in the show notes here for you guys that aren't in our 80/20 Academy.
Yeah. The Inner Circle Elite is, I just doing the podcast and talking to people and interacting on social media and Facebook, the impact that I think that that a lot of us out there doing, different products or podcasts, different things have been able to make on people and their success, and hearing how we're making those impacts has been really, really cool and huge. And I've become passionate about making impacts on businesses. And so Inner Circle Elite kind of came out of that. We wanted to create a community. There are some great masterminds out there, and we want to be, one of the great ones as well. And what differentiates us is we're about building a better business, not just a bigger business. A lot of people in coaching or education and stuff like that will always push grow, grow, grow. And like I said, if you're not growing for the right reasons, if you're not growing the right ways, it becomes a prison. And so, we're building this group of entrepreneurs that are looking to grow the business on their terms and to share collectively with each other, help each other, have each other's back. There are moments in our lives where, we can feel isolated and alone, like we're the only ones taking the arrows. We can't communicate with our team. We can't communicate with our family because they don't truly understand the struggle. When you sit in the room with other entrepreneurs that are winning and losing and fighting the same battles as you on a day-to-day basis, they understand, and you can share that and find the strength you need to, continue to fight the battle of building an incredible business. You can swap ideas, documents and marketing tactics and business tactics and systems and processes that'll make your life easier, so you're not trying to figure those things out, right? Napoleon Hill talked about a mastermind and a community, years and years and decades ago, and the power of just being surrounded by incredible people that are working on the same thing you are, fighting the same battle you are, going the same direction you are. And that's really what the Inner Circle Elite's about. It's putting incredible people in the room and working together collectively to build a better business and a better life, and to build some incredible relationships. And we've been able to really accomplish that. And I'm looking to bring more people into that family.
Love it. And yeah, Think and Grow Rich. I mean, is that the number one principle for success? I know, I love the premise of that book of pretty much, I think, spending like 20 years researching some of the most wealthy, financially successful people. And that was either the number one principle or one of the principles is joining a mastermind. There are a lot of great ones out there. For someone listening to this that is thinking about masterminds in 2020, what does kind of your ideal entrepreneur look like that's joining there? Maybe like how often do you guys meet per year, everything like that?
Yeah, so we meet 4 times a year, 3 stateside, 1 destination location. We're not hot seat based like a lot of masterminds are. We're going to be very much about drawing out the struggles of the group so we can fix the problems that they're having, drawing out the wins of the group so we can share the opportunities that are out there. Bringing in some high level individuals as speakers, leadership, opportunities and stuff like that to help the group collectively grow. And yeah, what was your question again?
Like the ideal
person. So
yeah.
The ideal person for the group is somebody that's looking to give as much as they're going to take. Like, they're not there to beat their chest. Everybody there is obviously a rock star and a winner. We know that. We're there to collectively be in a group of rock stars and fix the problems in our business. I've been in other masterminds, and sometimes you go and you talk about how great everything is, but you're either scared to talk about that one thing you're struggling with, or you're embarrassed to, or you don't feel like it's appropriate, and you go home without your problem fixed. And so we really want to create a community where people are bringing not just their wins. We want to hear the wins, and we want to celebrate the wins, but we also want to make sure that you're getting fixed on the issues you're struggling with. Maybe you're down on your marketing. Maybe you're struggling with your sales team. And there's going to be somebody in that group that that can help you with that. And we want to make sure that, you're willing to get that help, honestly. So the ideal person needs to have a real business. They need to be in business for at least a year. They need to be doing deals, and they need to be willing to grow with the group in the right direction. So that's ideally what we're looking for. What I think differentiates us is we're going to peel back the onion. We're not going to make it just about, beating chest. And I'm an operator. I'm an operator. So I'm not just somebody who's running an education program. I have the same struggles. I'm a big direct mail guy. I send out about 1 million postcards a year. I can tell you when it's working and when it's not, and when we're making changes. I have my finger on the pulse of the market. So I can not only point you to the direction of people who are operating and having the wins that you need to hear about, or the struggles that you can help with. I'm one of those guys that's going to be in there with you, working with you, because I understand what you're going through.
Love it. Well, man, we've got a pretty good breakdown on the Don Father thus far. I want to hear from you just so people can hear it as well. Best place to reach out to you, best link for Inner Circle Elite, and any type of advice or insight you have signing off here. I know we've been sprinkling that in the entire, 30-minute episode, 35-minute episode here, but anything to end off with?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at donafliptalk.com. You can find me at The Real Don Costa on Instagram. Would love to follow there. I'm on Facebook. I got a page, Flip Talk Podcast with Don Costa. There's a group. I mean, reach out to me. I'll point you in the direction for all those things. For the mastermind, the link is beinThisRoom.com. And the reason why is because I think it's important that you're in that room, and you don't want to miss being in this room. It's the room you want to be in. So beinThisRoom.com. Go there, apply, set a time. Mike or myself will get on the phone with you, figure out what your needs are in your business, and we can have a conversation if it's right for you and right for us, and we can go from there. What else? There was one more question you had for me. I apologize. I'm ADD like every entrepreneur out there.
No worries. I was being ADD myself and making sure I just gave you a follow here on IG. Look for the black and orange backdrop, guys. Any closing advice or insight? And like I was saying, I know that's been kind of sprinkled in this whole episode here.
That's what you had. So yeah, okay. So this is going to be probably a little bit real. And for somebody who's 20, they probably will not get this, but it's just something to think about. I'm 47. I've been in this business for 17 years. Yes, I'm old, and it's not sexy to be old in this business. Right. But I love what I do. I know what I do inside and out, and I'm very, very good at it. There's a realization I had. So my grandfather passed away about 75. And most of the men in my family pass away about that age. So at 47, if I'm lucky, I have another 28 years to live, which means I'm more than I have about half of the years I've lived left to live. When that hits you, you realize how limited time is and how lucky we are, especially if we're able to pursue a passion and a dream, and to be able to have the freedom to do things with our family. And I think it's important that if you have a dream right now, whether you're in a business and you're struggling, get with the right people, whether it's our mastermind or one that fits you, that's going to help you unwind your problems and have the business you want. If you're just trying to get started, take massive imperfect action right now and get out there and figure out what failure looks like and what success looks like. Make it happen, because time is not going to be here for you forever. It's limited. When you get to my age and you realize that you have already lived twice as long as you have left, it becomes real. And if you're not living your ideal life, you're not living your dream, then you are failing yourself on such a high level. So live your dream right now. Take action. Get in the right group. Take action. Do whatever you need to do, but live the life you deserve to live.
Love it. And that's one thing masterminds, maybe the most powerful thing about masterminds is just the speed of knowledge and implementation that you get. Absolutely. And guidance and confidence. Mm-hmm. So that's super, super important. Could not have said it better myself. And same thing, 47, I'm 29. But one of the biggest things for me, perspective-wise on time and mortality and everything like that, kind of a big stoic guy myself, or stoicism guy myself, is as sad as seeing deaths are to people that how sad it is. It's almost like a nice little wake-up call, like, hey, your time here is finite on this earth, at least in this body, which is crazy. But yeah, man, great stuff. Looking forward to hopefully connecting you. I think a lot of people listening to this would be a great fit for Inner Circle Elite Mastermind. Agreed. And hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you follow Don on social, because he's live all the time. So I'm sure for those of you that enjoyed this episode, you'd love to connect with Don if you're already not in the know of the Don Father.
Appreciate it. So yeah, follow for sure. I'm dropping content constantly, doing some incredible interviews constantly. So yeah, definitely.
Dropping Don content. Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, leave a review if you got any value from here. Feel free to let me know any feedback that you got on the episode, and definitely give Don a follow. Have a great day, guys.